Hey you!
Who, me?
Yeah, you! Do you know anything about parachutes?
No?
Well, today's your lucky day, because I'm going to teach you everything about them.
Why would I want to know about parachutes?
Because they're so important to our society. Let me show you!
Firstly, the word parachute is a combination of two words. Para, which is a Latin word for against, and chute, which is a French word for fall. The idea of a parachute is to cushion a fall. It is achieved by a combination of various physics concepts which gradually developed over the years. Basically, how the parachute flies is as a diver is falling down, the diver opens their parachute. The faster the diver falls, the more air molecules are trapped under the parachute, therefore causing a greater change in the momentum. When the parachute is open, air resistance is created. This air resistance counteracts the downward force of gravity, and the net force is directed upwards. Therefore, according to Newton's second law, the diver accelerates upwards and their speed decreases. As the speed decreases, the magnitude of the upward force also decreases until it is equal to the magnitude of the force of gravity. At this point, a state of zero net force is reached, and the diver no longer accelerates but travels at a terminal velocity.
Who actually uses that technology?
Well, there are several users of parachutes. Firstly, the main usage of parachutes are for skydivers. People jump off of planes, releasing their parachute before landing. The sport gives you the opportunity to temporarily be in a state of free fall before reaching the ground. This exhilarating sport is very popular among adrenaline junkies.
Parachutes are also used for sports like parasailing, where people are pulled by a boat attached to a parachute.
Next, parachutes are used in the military.
They are used to drop soldiers, supplies, and equipment onto the battlefield without actually landing the plane. This makes the job of landing on a field much easier and efficient. Different drops require different kinds of parachutes.
They are also used to help safely land airplanes when necessary. Lastly, parachutes are used for space travel. NASA uses parachutes for recovery. Any equipment that drops out of a rocket is dropped safely with the help of a parachute in an ocean or a landing field.
What's the impact of a parachute on society?
The main purpose of parachutes is the safety of everyone. Parachutes are an essential part of people's lives. It may seem like they are only used for skydiving and different sports, but they have significant other positive impacts on society. Firstly, the main purpose of parachutes is to save lives and make things more safe. Parachutes are designed so that people will not fall from the sky, plummeting to their own deaths. There are endless stories of parachutes saving lives in so many different occasions.
They are used in almost all aircraft so that in any case of a malfunction, people on board will land safely. Since parachute technology has continued to improve, there have been less plane crashes and less deaths.
As well, they are used in the military to drop soldiers and cargo.
As well, parachutes are used to drop supplies to countries that have been affected by natural disasters, such as earthquakes. It may be dangerous to land in certain parts of a country. Parachutes are the answer when there's an emergency, and people must be able to get there as soon as possible. As the technology has developed and keeps getting better every day, it will increasingly make landing much safer with less accidents. On top of this, parachutes are also environmentally friendly, releasing no pollution into the water and into the air. Thanks to parachutes, our experience in the sky have gotten much more safer and much more pleasant.
Are there any careers related to the manufacture and use of parachutes?
Well, the answer is yes, and today I'm going to be hosting 4 different interviews to show you some of the different careers. The first up is Clara Lee. Hello! So you want to know about a paratrooper? Well, a paratrooper is basically a soldier who carries out parachuting duties in combat situations. To become a paratrooper, you must complete airborne school training, and in order to do that, you must meet several qualifications, including standards related to your physical fitness. The training is 3 weeks long, and the first week takes place on the ground, the second week involves tower jumps, and the third week involves jumps from 50 feet. After completing this training, soldiers are given a pair of silver wings to wear on their uniforms. Well, thank you for your time, Clara. The second is Jake Williams.
Hi everyone, I'm a parachute manufacturer, and my job is basically I employ a variety of people involved in the production of parachutes for military and civilian customers. These positions include the cutters who cut the piece of material for the parachutes, the sewers who piece together the parachutes using industrial sewing machines, the inspectors who ensure that the parachutes are safe and up to standard, of course, and the packers who pack up the parachutes before they are shipped out.
Thank you, Jake. Now it's Jessie Smith.
Hi, thanks for having me. Basically what parachute riggers do is they work with parachutes on the ground, repairing, handling, and packing them. Parachute riggers are employed by the military as well as civilian organizations. Military parachute riggers must take the First Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, complete 10 weeks of basic training, and 16 weeks of additional training, including on-the-job instruction. So a lot of training. Parachute riggers working for private organizations must be certified by the Federal Aviation Administration.
Thank you, Jessie. And last but not least, we have Molly Hansen. Skydiving is a sport that involves jumping off a plane from thousands of feet above the air and opening a parachute to float to safety. We as skydiving instructors teach people how to do this safely. We also go on tandem jumps where we're tethered to untrained jumpers. We also teach in classroom settings. To become an instructor, you need to take a week-long course and accumulate sufficient skydiving experience. Thank you, Molly. Well, those are all the interviews for today. We have one last question, so back to the video.
What's the history of parachutes?
Leonardo da Vinci was the first person who designed the parachute. His sketch was a triangular prism design, but it was never brought to life. In 1783, Louis Sébastien Lenormand was the first person to jump with a parachute. Early parachutes were made of linen stretched across wood until in 1793, Jean-Pierre Blanchard discovered that silk with no undercarriage had some very good advantages during flight. The very first noted successful parachute jump with a parachute that does not have a rigid frame was done by André Garnerin in 1979. This parachute was designed to help people jump out of buildings when it was on fire. His parachute looked like a giant umbrella. Fast forwarding to the mid-1960s, parafoil and ram air parachutes were introduced. These parachutes consisted of two rectangular membranes and a trailing edge and sides, rather than the circular shape that was used for parachutes. This design made the parachute much more maneuverable and there is lighter impact when landing. Today, the parachute has certainly developed for the better. They are now made with durable nylon fabrics to improve the performance. The nylon fabric prevents the trapped air from escaping through the fabric. This leads to a safe landing. Another aspect in which the parachute has evolved is through ripcord technology. The ripping effect that occurs when opening a parachute is strong enough to rip a human body. The ripcord is there to make sure that there are no problems with opening a parachute and it causes fewer accidents and malfunctions. In more recent years, the military has changed the shape of the parachutes used from circular to square. Not only are these parachutes lighter, these new parachutes decrease spinning and reduce the rate at which the parachutes descend by 30%, also reducing the rate of landing injuries. Furthermore, NASA has created parachutes on large scales to help land space shuttles on Earth and rovers on Mars. These parachutes are heavy duty and much stronger than other parachutes.